my calculations are correct, when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
They're here.
Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
It's showtime.
Right, welcome everybody to another episode of the VHS Strikes Back. I am one of your hosts, Chris, and my co-host, a very good friend, is Dave.
Hey there, Chris, and hello to our listeners out there. Welcome to the VHS Strikes Back, the show where we dust off the old video player and go on a nostalgic journey to look at the good and the bad movies of yesteryear. Now, Chris, what are we reviewing this week?
Well, Dave, this is your pick, and you did try and gazump me with this, not knowing if I'd seen it or not, because I'm not a sci-fi fan, as you know, being the biggest hypocritical sci-fi non-fan. We're going back to 1986, Dave. This one stars Ali Sheedy, Fisher Stevens, and I'm sure we're going to talk about him in this movie, and Mr. Carrie Mahoney, or otherwise known as Steve Guttenberg, Dave. This one is Short Circuit. So, what do you remember about watching this one?
Well, I watched this one quite a lot. I had it taped off the video, and I just absolutely loved this one, Chris. This was one of those movies that I could watch, get to the end, and then literally watch again. I just loved all of the silliness to it, and obviously, you know, I think I'm about 10-ish at this point, so it was just, you're still in that pre-teen, you know, I definitely hadn't grown up by that point, so I still like the kind of family movies, and I guess the reason I thought you wouldn't like it, even though I take the piss out of you for your love of sci-fi or your supposed hatred of sci-fi, even though you love a lot of the sci-fi movies, but the ones that we've discussed have always been more at the kind of adult end, you know, not adult, but you know, the RoboCops, the Terminators, stuff like that. Obviously, Back to the Future as well, but that's more of a family movie. But this one is even more of a family movie, I would say, than even Back to the Future. You know, it's quite silly in bits, isn't it? Even though there's some sexual jokes, which is weird for them to throw in for such a childlike movie. But if you ignore those, you know, it's almost cartoon levels. So yeah, that's why I thought you probably hadn't watched it. But yeah, I absolutely loved this one. And to be honest, I haven't watched this for years, and I wasn't sure if I'd remember it or how it'd stand up. You know, did I just remember those highlights and, you know, everything else I'd kind of forget? But no, I pretty much remembered scene by scene for this one, Chris. I mean, how about yourself?
Yeah, so I've been racking my brains this week trying to work out how I first rented it on VHS, but 100% we rented it. Saw the second one. I got it in 1988. I know it's not as good as the first one, but definitely something that I've watched I'd probably say I've watched it about half a dozen times, but not watched it for at least 30 years. So I've been maybe at 15 or what, maybe 35 years. But it was a bit of a regular one, same as you. Watched it on TV and then on VHS. But yeah, Johnny Five is alive and all that. And I do think it was a bit of the Chris Phelps special where, even though I'm saying the second one was better, I think I may have preferred the second one because Johnny Five was a bit more animated, a bit more, you know, the character evolved. I don't know. It's like the Beverly Hills Cop stuff and everything. I can appreciate the first one; he's amazing, but still say the second one's better. The only one I'd never say is Lethal Weapon. The first one's still the ultimate, even though the second's ace. But it's weird because it was definitely something we all watched, and I watched it, and I knew straight away as soon as you said it last week, yeah, Steve Guttenberg and everything. But also, not realizing this time watching it after all this time, like the comparisons to probably one of the biggest movies ever, which I actually really enjoyed when we covered it. I'd never seen it, is E.T. So yeah, I do want to talk about that when we get into it. But no, I'm really glad you picked it. It wasn't one I would have picked. And the fact that you thought I'd never seen it, Dave, was even better. So it was nice to go back and watch it and just to see like that nostalgia. But I'm the same. I remember pretty much every single bit of the movie. So yeah. No, I'm ready for this one.
Awesome. Well, should we get into the trailer?
Let's go.
It's the the ultimate soldier.
It doesn't get happy, it doesn't get sad, it doesn't laugh at your jokes.
It is quite simply
Jen.
the most sophisticated robot on Earth.
At Nova Robotics, the future is in good hands.
You're doing real good. Just keep working on those last 2 bars.
Thanks to Dr. Newton Crosby.
Originally, I designed it as a marital aid.
But artificial intelligence has gotten too smart.
It's malfunctioning. It might not do anything.
But it could decide to blow away anything that moves, couldn't it?
Because $11 million worth of robot just hit the road.
Wow!
Number 5 is alive.
Welcome to my planet.
You just have to find number 5, get some answers.
Why don't you come on in my house?
And it's got a lot of living to do.
Whatever it takes to put that stupid contraption out of commission, that's what you do.
Need input. Haven't had enough of this stuff. More input. More input.
And they can seem quite lifelike, but they are still machines.
Number 5 is alive.
Nice software. How it happens, who knows, but it has happened.
A new comedy adventure from John Badham, the director of War Games.
They're gonna be after you. We gotta get out of here now. Keep alive!
Ali Sheedy, Steve Gutenberg, and Number 5,
Beautiful.
Short Circuit.
I am alive.
Nova Robotics specialists Newton and Ben have developed several prototype robots named Saint, strategically artificially intelligent nuclear transport for use by the US military in Cold War operations. Although their work is intended for military purposes, the experts prefer to find peaceful applications for their inventions. During a live demonstration for the military, one of the Saints, Number 5, is struck by lightning, causing a surge in the lab's power grid. The incident disrupts its programming, granting it sentience and leading to its escape from the Nova facility. Now, Chris, what do you reckon to the opening of this movie?
Well, very, very familiar. And what was interesting, I love the fact that obviously 2 years earlier, you've got Mahoney there, Steve Guttenberg. And in this one, it looks like they've done the old Christian Bale thing. Just grow your hair out a little bit so you've got a little bit of a curly mop head, and we'll pretend that you're really young. He looks young, obviously, but he was one of them people. I loved Steve Guttenberg in anything he was in. 3 Men and a Baby, 3 Men. I need at some point to pick them. They are on my list because I loved them movies. Definitely did. But yeah, it's weird because it feels dead familiar. But watching it now, and I know the budget was like 15. It feels really cheap for like the budget. It feels very contained. It's almost like, I'd almost say it felt at times that I was watching an episode of the A-Team, if that makes sense. Not, I'm not getting on no playing fool and all that, but just the way it was shot, it felt like a TV movie in some respects. And I'll be honest, Dave, I did not enjoy this as much as I thought I would. I thought the nostalgia would ride through. It's not like, obviously, when we did Weird Science and I've never seen it, we've not got that nostalgia. But it just didn't, it just feels to me, I said it before the trailer, it's just a fucking E.T. rip-off, basically, isn't it? It's just an absolute knockoff of E.T. with Steve Guttenberg driving it. And, like, I didn't realise that Fisher Stevens, I think you alluded to it last week, isn't actually an Indian person at all, Dave, which, there's no way you would get away with that now. But I didn't realise until I was researching after I watched it. So I've only just found this out in the last hour or so, Dave, where I'm like, oh, shit, because I kept thinking, Indian accent's a little bit Apu-ish off Simpsons, you know what I mean? Like, I'm thinking that's a little bit over the top, and now I know why. It's not Jennifer Grey's dad, as in Remo Williams, where he pretends to be some Asian martial artist and all that, which was terrible when you realise now. But yeah, that really sticks out, I think, more than anything. The accent, that whole character is very, very bizarre. But yes, I just didn't enjoy it at all. It feels dead familiar, but just really, I don't know. I just didn't get anything hit with me, to be honest.
Well, I think for me, what I'd say straight off the bat, the nostalgia definitely hit me. So there are lots and lots of things that I noticed about the movie this time that I didn't notice before. Fisher Stevens, in particular, and like you say, with the accent and the choice of his lines and stuff, it is done for comedy purposes, isn't it? The whole Indian accent, he's got the brown face on as a kid. I thought he was really funny. I know he plays more of a role in the second one, doesn't he? Steve Guttenberg isn't in that one. But yeah, you're watching it now and you're like, oh no, surely not. And you're like, you look at his IMDb and you're like, oh, that's not good. I mean, at the time, though, no one really questioned it at all. And like yourself, I just assumed he was Indian. It wasn't as obvious as, like you say, the Remo Williams stuff. But yeah, I kind of enjoyed it. But some of the things that I found wrong with it, I think the casting, first off, I mean, it does feel like some kind of weird Police Academy spin-off, because you've got obviously Steve Guttenberg and you've got G.W. Bailey in there as Schroeder as well. And so it just gives it that Police Academy feel. I think the music, especially when it's light and upbeat, makes it feel a bit Police Academy as well. You're just waiting for that iconic Police Academy theme tune. But I think the casting of Steve Guttenberg straight away is just massively off, because he's supposed to be this introverted techie nerd who basically lives in the lab, doesn't interact with people. And, you know, the fact that he goes on to have a bit of a thing with Stephanie later on, you're just thinking, but it's Steve Guttenberg. We know that he's got this charisma. And, you know, he's never going to be sat in the lab. He's going to be the one, you know, out drinking with his mates while the nerds are working at stuff in the lab. So it just struck me as a bit odd, as well as the whole Fisher-Stevens thing at the start. But I did like the setup. You know, they didn't waste much time at all before, you know, number 5 struck by lightning. You see the little demonstration for the military, and it made me think, I wonder if the opening for Iron Man took anything from this kind of military demonstration at all. So it's very much a family movie. Completely get the comparisons with E.T. I mean, the beats of the story are almost the same. In fact, Stephanie, for some weird reason, I can only think that the script was done before the design of the robots. But for some reason, Stephanie thinks number 5 is like an alien. And I'm like, but have you got eyes? Have you seen him? He's very, very, very clearly a robot.
Until he falls over and she goes like, property of Summit, you're not an alien. I'm like, no shit, Sherlock. It's metal. It's got fucking parts you could buy in a fucking utility store. I think we're good there. I agree with that. That's very off, to be honest.
Yeah, and you mentioned about the hair, like you say, it's not quite Christian Bale, is it? But you know, I think the Steve Guttenberg hair, the bouffant that you've got there. But one of the things I wasn't expecting, so you've got Ali Sheedy, and I did have a bit of a crush on Ali Sheedy back in the day. She was in Breakfast Club as well. And I'm watching this, and I can't help but think, man, that haircut's like Rita Fairclough.
Legend.
And then, I know we have people listening from all around, but I mean, Rita Fairclough's what? I mean, she's been like basically a pensioner hanging around in Coronation Street for years. I mean, is she still on it, Chris?
Now.
I know you should still watch it.
Yeah, she's 90. She's still on it. Like Ken Barlow, he's 90, still on it as well.
Blimey.
It's fucking madness. Same haircut as well, Dave. The ginger big bouffant. It's not died.
So that sort of took me out of it a little bit, but yeah, no, it's for me, Chris. I still did enjoy it.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny because I think what you hit on with Guttenberg's character, he would have been the Peter Venkman of this movie for me. Because that Mahoney is like Venkman, isn't he? He's a bit of a smarmy fucker. You know, I still stand by my fucking breakdown of Venkman on the Coming Song trial against Scott Weatherly, but 20th Century Geek. But if he'd played the Mahoney part, And he was a bit, like you said, like he's a computer whiz, but he's also the guy who goes to the pub and gets in a fight with fucking squaddies or something, like the Marines, and gives them a kicking, a proper tough nut. But because they do that, don't they? That grounded bit where it's like, they're a genius, but they're also a badass. Whereas in this, he's gone full on like Matthew Broderick. Is it like War Games, whatever the one, that like a proper geek? I know, like he's a kid in it, but he's like, it doesn't sit well with it. I like the bit when he comes in and Ben's talking to him and he puts the middle finger up, and the way they're interacting with the robots and everything, and the whole. What I would say is I will give it props, because you look at stuff like AI, what's going on now, and the way that's going on, and the whole idea of Johnny Five is basically, it's Cyberdyne, and it's Skynet stuff. So it's all that sort of Terminator thing in it, where the robots take, they take over everything, and they just get too clever. And we've seen that with some of the AI stuff recently, haven't we? Like there is something there that it becomes like an entity. You look at like the Avengers, don't you? That sort of thing. It's there, isn't it? It's a possibility. And I think the idea behind this, because when he's researching everything and he goes to meet like Stephanie, and he's at the house, he's just reading his encyclopedias and getting like the knowledge base, watching. She goes, "Have you had this on all night? The TV's on full fucking blast." She's not living in some fucking mansion that's like 60 rooms and she can't hear the TV. And she's, Johnny Five sat there just fucking engrossed in TV. So when you get the Three Stooges things and the jokes, it's bringing his character out. That's good, but you're right. The whole alien thing, I think I've never even thought of that properly, but it did sit with me, and I'm thinking, was it like a script thing they've kept it in? Because don't make any sense. But also a boyfriend, he's a fucking tool, isn't he? Her ex-boyfriend, he's a fucking, again, I mean, he's driving a Trans Am, I'll give him that. But from the minute we meet him, he's a complete prick, isn't he? And it's like a neighbour's there going, "Oh, it's another one that bites the dust," sort of thing. He's like a really... these characters come in, and I always think, I know it's a movie and that, but they're just despicable people. This guy's not nice, and it's like he could be an arsehole and treat her badly, but it doesn't necessarily mean he's a fucking murderer or like, but they just make him out to be like the worst of the worst, don't they? It's like, it's just bizarre, but I'm with you. It starts very quickly. Him who plays Sergeant Harris, G.W. Bailey, all you need is him just keep going, "Proctor," all that sort of thing. It's like, if you talk about typecast, he's playing the same character, innit? He thinks he knows best. You've got the guy who's like the professor, who Dr. Howard Marner, he's like, he wants it to work, but he's not that bad a character, is he? He's just like, he wants the project to work. And when Johnny Five basically comes alive, you go with it. There's some good madcap bits when he goes to see her and like I say, the encyclopedias, he's reading everything. And I like that. It is quite fun. And there's a few jokes, but it just seems to be that Steve Guttenberg and Ben, they're just driving around in a fucking ice cream van, basically, aren't they? Trying to catch him. And the army are worse than any police we've seen in any of these movies. But I'm with you. It's not offensive. It's just, I don't know. I just don't think it hits. Even the jokes, like there's a joke with Ben when he talks about where's your heritage from, where's your ancestors from, and he's like Oregon, and he looks, and I think that's supposed to be like the jokes. If say, "Come on, but you speak in Indian," all that sort of thing. But I don't think it hit. It might have done
that bit though, isn't it? Because he
it
says,
is uncomfortable.
"Where are you originally from?" And he's like, "Pittsburgh."
Yeah, that's like that unconscious racism in it that we, luckily we're all more aware of that. And, we talk about it ourselves as the podcast. It's such a big thing at work and everything. But I genuinely, when you see that, you're like, no, that's not even funny. It might have been then, I don't know, but it certainly isn't now. But again, knowing that it was a white guy playing Indian, it's like, oh fucking hell, it is quite poor, really, but. It's from 1986. It's 40 years old. We can all sit here on our soapboxes now, giving it that's terrible. It's terrible. But we probably never even second guessed it when we first watched it. But luckily, the world's changed and evolved for the better in that respect. So so you just things like that didn't hit, and I don't really understand the Stephanie and Dingy Newton thing, because they're literally only. It's literally like a 5-minute thing where they become when she meets him and that, they don't. I get it, he's a dickhead, and all this thing, but I didn't really get the chemistry. There didn't seem to be any chemistry between him, if I'm being honest.
I mean, it is Steve Guttenberg, isn't it? So, like I say, I kind of bought it because you know him from Police Academy and stuff. So you could definitely buy that. But like I say, I think, say Alan Turing from when Benedict Cumberbatch played him in the Imitation Game. I think it needed to be someone like that, someone who's literally going to be locked away in the lab, a bit awkward and everything. So. But maybe I'm just expecting a little too much. I mean, at the end of the day, like I say, it's very much a family movie. So the thing with the ex-boyfriend, he's basically a caricature, isn't he? Because he's not just an arsehole. He's not just not treating Stephanie very well. He's trying to basically take her pet dog and sell him for medical experiments. But while still trying to get back with her. And you're like, just everything's a bit extreme, isn't it? But it's funny that you mention about Peter Venkman, because the sound effect, I don't know if you saw this, from the lasers is the same as the Ghostbusters proton packs. And so, again, it give it that kind of familiar feel to it, didn't it? As well as the E.T. storyline, the Ghostbusters sound effects and everything. And apparently it was filmed as well in the same place in Oregon where they filmed the Goonies and Kindergarten Cop. So real heritage to it there.
Yeah, you know what, Dave? It's funny that I did think of the Goonies. The buildings, the big wooden houses in the hills, and the way that the neighborhood is and everything. I didn't think, that's the Goonies area, but I did think, it does look familiar, that setting. Very much like what they did with E.T., wasn't it? And they did different, like Poltergeist. It was all on like that lot, wasn't it? There's loads of films done that Spielberg and that did himself. But yeah, that's a good callback. But I do like to say it's not an offensive movie at all. It's not something where I'm like, holy shit.
Apart from the whole brown face thing.
Well, obviously, yeah. Apart from that, but I mean, offensive to me, like I was hating it, as in going, this is fucking shit. It was terrible. It wasn't a John Hammond fucking devil fetus nonsense, but it was ridiculous. But I do think like this feels really, really dated, and I think for you, it hit a little bit where you're like, the nostalgia kicked in. But I feel like the story is so thin. These like multi-million-pound robots they've created, and one of them goes rogue, and the amount of money and the way it's decimated and everything, like through the movie and the whole number 5 thing and that. I don't know. I just don't think it hits with me at all. And maybe it's that. Maybe it's what you've hit on about the Guttenberg thing, because you've got like a lead actor who is, I know he's playing a character, but he's playing a character that's unfamiliar to him. Even in like 3 Men and a Baby and all that, he's still got that Mahoney in him, and he's still got that like little bit of smarm to him, but he's a nice character. In this, he's like he's dialed everything down to the point of having no personality, and I don't really care about him as a character. I think it's more about Johnny Five in it than anything. He's just, you can see where it's going with her, and I think she's well, it's her and Johnny Five are there like the main characters, aren't they? I don't think Guttenberg, even though he gets top billing, I don't necessarily think he's the best part of the movie.
No, and you said about the budget before, it's 15 million, but they spent about $1 million just on the robots. So it's very clear for me the design actually it stands up quite well. They were thinking about using stop motion animation, which would have dated it even more, I think. But by using the practical effects and being quite clever with the camera angles and stuff, I think that bit actually holds up pretty well. And if you think about it, several years after this, I mean, we were watching that Beowulf, weren't we, a good few months ago now, and some of the CGI is absolutely horrendous. Even Blade, so 98. So some of the CGI at the end when he turns into that blood god thing, it just looks horrible. So I think for 1986, the design of the robots is really good. But I sort of touched on it a little bit before. I think the comedy in it, the tone of it is really quite childish. It doesn't really. All of the characters are very. They're not nuanced at all. They're exaggerated to be these characters, and even parking the Steve Guttenberg thing, and I don't think he fits that character at all. It's this weird thing with the 80s, though. They still have to chuck some blatantly sexual stuff in there. So when Johnny 5, he's not Johnny until right in the end, is he? So number 5 comes in, and Stephanie's in the bath, because he's escaped. She kind of handed him over to Nova, and then, he'd escaped again. And then she's in the bath, and she's like, "Oh, Stephanie, change color, nice software." And he does this little grappling, as if he's squeezing sort of motion. Just like fucking hell. I just don't think you'd have something to that level being overtly sexual in a kids' movie today.
Yeah, but Dave, I'm not being funny. The old classic, how big's fucking Johnny 5's fucking rod? We've seen movies before. We've covered Dave where someone fucked the fucking rod. You know what I mean? We all remember the old Spider Dan throwing one out there, Dave. You know what I mean? We remember that movie very well, don't we? So yeah, and he's got long fingers as well. To be fair, Johnny 5. You know what I mean, Dave? He can play the piano and stuff. I shouldn't take it down this route, but there you go. But yeah, I reckon he's packing a little bit of fucking 12-inch fucking pipe rod there, definitely.
I think more than 12-inch. It was quite girthy as well, because he makes some like beckoning movements. It's like a fucking flask.
Fucking tripod.
Or even, maybe not quite as big as a fire extinguisher, but yeah, he did it earlier in the movie. I didn't notice that little groinal attachment or whatever it was.
Can I rub you back, Stephanie? Fucking hell, what the fuck's this? Yeah, we've seen them movies, Dave. Anyway, moving on. But yes, I'm with you. There's a couple of little jokes in there and everything there. But I will say, I think number 5, the robot, as you said, the way it moves on the whole, like the tank feel to it, the tractor, all that. I think it's really good, and I think it does stand up. I really do. And I know they said they had 2 or 3 different heads, didn't they, for some of the expressions they needed, like the robot to show. But I honestly think it stands up. I think like the whole idea behind that robot, I think that robot's a lot better than fucking Rocky 4. Hi, Paulie, you're the greatest. And all that.
Paulie's sex robot.
Yeah, fucking shagging a fucking robot, definitely. But yeah, all that, like, you're the best. The absolute load of shit that is. But I do go with Johnny 5. I do go with like the idea behind it, the principle of the character. There is a little bit of using imagination, because he seems to be able to get into all these spots as a robot, and it's only when he gets cracked with the baseball bat by the boyfriend that he falls over. But he seems to be like, he gets into all these spots, that even with the wheels and the way he's like the traction thing is and all that, the belt he's got on the wheels, it wouldn't make any sense, but you go with it. And I did see, and I'm sure you've seen it, when her boyfriend comes back and he's in the red Trans Am Day, so that did prick me interest. And number 5 dismantles it, because obviously he brings the gun in, doesn't he, and he's shooting him, and it's like, it is funny. That's one bit I did like, when he's shooting at him and he's got like the disc fucking break off his car, and he's going, and he starts speaking a bit like Clint Eastwood and that. But it's when he falls, doesn't he, when they come out the house? So she's chasing him, and that was an error. He did fall, because apparently Stephanie in real life, she was pissing herself laughing on the camera, and he said you literally see her put her head down. So when he runs out the house and falls into like he slips, doesn't he, on the decking as they're trying to chase number 5, because he's dismantled the car like he's going to build it again, like a Lego set. That is actually a blooper they kept in the movie. Right. And Ali Sheedy's laughing her head off, said it was so difficult for them you could pick up on it straight away, because it wasn't planned. But I do like that bit with the gun thing and all that. And then obviously he shoots the back of his cowboy boots, the pants come off. That is like proper children family thing, isn't it? Like, imagine kids in the cinema laughing. And it was a success in the cinema. It's rated in the middle by the critics and that, but it was 15 million budget, made 40 million. And it actually exceeded anything they thought of, even though critically it wasn't well received, to be honest.
Yeah, and I guess in my mind, this was huge. But I guess I'm perfectly in that demographic where it should be.
It
Whereas to
was,
make
yeah.
the big money, you do have to appeal probably a bit more to the adults. And again, maybe that's why they throw in some adult type humor there. But yeah, I'm surprised actually that it wasn't bigger than I thought it was. Because, like I say, it's bigger to me. But you were saying about him sort of laser in his boots, though. Even as a kid, I just, there was something I couldn't accept about that scene. And I think looking at it now, I know what it is. So basically, the boyfriend's run out because he's seen his Trans Am completely dismantled. But then when he's starting to shoot the lasers, the way the shots are made, like, he's obviously running towards the robot or to the car or whatever. But suddenly, like, he turns away from the robot and stands perfectly still so that the bottom of his shoes can be lasered off. it just doesn't make any sense, does it?
Yeah, I didn't think of that. Yeah,
he's got to stand perfectly still, so whatever effect they've done to simulate that laser, makes it looks normal. And then,
because he's faced on, isn't he? And the way the camera angle is, it's from the back. Yeah.
And so even as a kid, I'm like, that makes no sense. And then even the shooting the laser off his belt off.
Yeah.
It's just like, but he's sort of stood perfectly still. And if you think about it, I mean, he's obviously got to, hasn't he? Because that laser will blow your cock off. So I guess, you should stand still. But he's like panicked, isn't he? He's had his car kind of completely dismantled. So there was something about that scene that just always felt off to me as a kid. And I kind of get why you have to do it, like how you're going to create these slapstick stunts almost. But it always bugged me as a kid watching this, and it's only now you look back and you're like, oh, okay, I kind of get it, but it still looks a bit shit.
Yeah, I think I didn't think of any of that. Oh, it was the cap when he took the lip of his cap off, and I'm like, well, how's he not melted his head?
Cut his whole head off.
Yeah, I can buy the belt because it's metal. It's just like he's fired a little bit, not with full force, just enough to make his pants fall. I can even buy the shoes thing, which you've done with now, the cowboy boots. But I couldn't buy the cap because I was like, well, he's just sheared it off in a perfect, like he's sawn it off from the front. It was complete. There was no damage to the guy's face or anything. But I get it for the comedy effects, and this is obviously when number 5 sort of gets captured, doesn't he, and all that, and like they have a tracking device, and but then because of what's been going on with him, like learning, doing the AI thing, learning about different things, all this knowledge he's got, he deactivates, doesn't he, the tracker and goes back to Stephanie. Now, I will say that I do feel the last 20 minutes are a little bit thin with the story. I mean, it's an hour and 40, this movie, but there's a lot of it. I'm watching it going, there's not a lot going on here. Like this interaction, I don't know, the time seemed to flash by for me. I don't know what it was, but I felt like I'd got to an hour in the movie and I was like, well, there's not really a lot gone on here. What's happening? I hope like the last 35, 40 minutes is, action packed. It'll really like cement the fact that why I used to watch it as a kid. But I don't know, it just seems quite empty at times. I don't think it works between Steve Guttenberg and Fisher Stevens, to be honest. I don't think there's a proper connection there. Maybe it's because he is, faking who he is as a character now. I don't know, Fisher Stevens as Ben, but I don't know. It just doesn't feel right because there's a bit there where they're like discovering each other, like talking, not discovering each other, but you know what I mean? Like this, about life, and they're away from like the compound of like the experiments and all that crap. Like I just don't know. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like organic, like the two kindred spirits or the really best friends, if that makes sense. I just can't buy any of that at all. Maybe it's Mahoney. Maybe it's Guttenberg's performance. I don't know. He just seems so bland. He's like a fucking blank piece of white paper, doesn't he? He's just completely nothing on it for me.
I think, again, because you've seen him, the character Mahoney in Police Academy, I think he's just completely dialed down. Like a lot of his charm and charisma are from the kind of winks to the camera, that little smirk that he's got when he's trying to lech on the ladies. You know, all of that is kind of gone. And I think, you know, Fisher Stevens, Ben, you know, he's only there for the one-liners, isn't he? He's only there to muddle up his English phrases and stuff like that to get a cheap laugh. So I do get that. What I'd say is, in terms of action, I mean, it does fizzle out. I think the one bit that stands out is when the robots are trying to, you know, the original kind of robots are trying to catch him, number 5, and then he kind of reprograms them all to be the Three Stooges ultimately. But there's the iconic, "Hey, laser lips, your mama was a snowblower." You know, that sort of, I remember that. That was pretty iconic. And again, it's a little bit silly. And when the robots are shooting after him, you know, he's giving the cartoon like, "Whoa," you know, and all of that sort of stuff. So again, it's kind of a bit silly. Where it really kind of falls off, you know, in terms of the pacing and everything, for me, is when you've got Gutenberg or Crosby, and he's been kidnapped, basically. Stephanie's trying to prove the fact that Johnny 5 is alive, or number 5 is alive. And they're going through this back and forth, and he puts the soup on the page. Again, another thing as a kid, Chris, I'm like, there's no fucking way that soup has just made that perfect bird shape. But
Yeah.
you know, I can kind of go with that. And then he's done all these tests, and so have you heard of the Turing test? This
no,
this test of artificial intelligence. So, you know, and I think they still use it today. So it is all this AI stuff. Is it just simulating kind of intelligence, or, you know, in other words, like the silly things we do with like the music and stuff, and things like ChatGPT and stuff like that. It's AI, but it's all model based. It's not suddenly going to have a conversation with you and ask you if you fancy a pint down the pub. But you know, so knowing though that there are these things out there, and there have been these things for a while for AI, for him to suddenly, you know, be turned around because he tells a crappy joke, you know, and then suddenly like, fucking hell, he's alive. It just seemed really odd, you know, because he's literally interacted with this robot for ages. And then because he starts laughing at a joke, he's like, spontaneous emotional response or something. And it's like, yeah, again, I don't really buy that.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm just, you know what, looking at Gutenberg here, he's got the world record, Guinness Book of Record, for preparing the most hot dogs in a minute, Dave. How you even come across that? An achievement. I was looking at some of the movies, but anyway, what the fuck's he done? How he's even decided to do that, I do not know. But anyway, he's done it in a minute, Dave. So well done, Steve. So I think as well, though, Dave, like with they say about buying stuff, he said about the laser, about this whole thing there, the shooting thing. It's like how I think even the ending of it is like, I get it. They're in this fucking mobile ice cream van, which apparently has got all the parts in it to build another robot or whatever, you know, like, but you get the standoff, don't you? The Russian standoff, like, you know, you could come out, and they come out and all this. And then it's like, you know, he gets away, gets blown up, he's gone and all, and you're like, oh, it's terrible, and they're crying. And there's this kindred thing between them two, you know, Crosby and Stephanie, like, you know, they're now sort of a couple and they're driving off. And then he's like, you know, after a few minutes of it, he comes from underneath. Now, I'm not being funny, Dave. That's a big vehicle. Where the fuck's he been under that vehicle? Because it's not like, you know, like you see where like people can hide under, like, say, the prop shaft or something, yeah. the car. He's a big fucking unit, isn't he? And he just comes from it, ta-da, hi everyone, I'm back, you know, and it's a Johnny 5 thing. But 1 minute, what's weird about that conversation, Newton says, I've got a little bit of land in wherever, doesn't he? But then when Johnny says, I'm alive, blah, 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 he then says, I've got 40 acres. 40 acres isn't a little bit of land, but in the conversation, in the same paragraph, literally the same dialogue, within about 30 seconds, he's now got this 40 acres is fucking huge. It's like, oh, well, yeah, I got left it. Yeah, fucking nothing really. He's talking as if he had like a little hut with a fucking little bit of a rockery garden. And next minute, he's got a ranch like he's in Dallas or something, like it's Southfork. It's fucking bizarre, that. That is really strange bit of dialogue for me.
Again, I think it's just everything's a bit childish and cartoony, isn't it? So the fact that, if you had that, what the fuck have you been doing stuck in the lab for all this time? Well, this place is just left to the wild or whatever. It is a bit silly, that bit. And I think for the hiding, like you say, he's a massive robot. It's not as if he's like crouching down under something, because basically the back doors have been blown off as well, so it's all open. And yeah, you would be able to see him. It's ridiculous. But I've got to be honest, at the end there, when he got blown up, got a little bit fucking choked. I was a bit sad, and I was thinking, I don't remember this specific bit, but for that brief moment, I thought, oh, fucking hell, that's a bit sad, isn't it? And then I thought, hang about, no. I wouldn't have watched this over and over again, because I said at the top, I remembered scene by scene, but I didn't remember this. I had a bit of a mental block on this very last bit. But yeah, it was probably in reality, it was probably a few seconds where I was thinking, oh, fucking hell, that's a bit sad, isn't it? He's alive, and, all the military personnel are basically playing with all the body parts and stuff. It's pretty gruesome if you think he was alive. And then Schroeder effectively gets sacked, doesn't he? So, he gets his comeuppance a little bit. But yeah, it was kind of nice at the end, I feel. Again, just going with it, just ignoring all of the nonsense physics, even putting that robot together. I know he's super quick and stuff, but we can also see him when he moves his arms around. There's no way he'd be able to do that. So yeah, I'll be honest, I went with it. As nonsense as it was, this one, the nostalgia definitely pulled me through.
Yeah, like I say, it just, for me, not a terrible movie at all. But yeah, and I agree. I knew the ending bit. I didn't feel. It was more looking like, well, what's the logic behind that? Because basically, Johnny Five has built a duplicate robot, and he out of like the parts and everything, and he's a fucking genius, Dave. I said the A-Team reference. I mean, did he have a welding kit? Was he locked in a room somewhere while he built it? Very good. Very
all the intricate circuitry that you need tiny little hands for. Apparently, exactly. You can do it with these grapplers.
yeah. Well, he's got a big rod, Dave. So yeah, he definitely can do a few things. But no, yeah, and I appreciate the fact that you've picked it, because it is another one to tick off the list, because we would have done this at some point, because it was like, as a kid, it was definitely an 80s classic. I think within my circle of friends, I would have been 8 or 9 when I first watched this. So yeah, definitely in that wheelhouse. Karate Kid, Ferris Bueller, this, them sort of movies were what I did watch a lot of, and obviously Back to the Future as well. But no, it's good stuff. So should we get into the scores, Dave?
Let's go.
So, Dave, I'm going to be consistent here. So last week, I put it in Elm Street, and I was like, yeah, and then you were laughing, going, well, you fucking picked it. You're all picked, sort of thing. But you've gushed over it, and then you've put it. But I'm going to have to put it in Elm Street. I think it's a good movie. It's a family movie, but it hasn't aged very well. It's 40-odd years old. This is definitely an ITV Saturday afternoon movie. It's pissing down outside, and you would put someone on and go, what the hell can I watch? And Short Circuit would be on. Obviously, these days, it's usually Fast and Furious, and it was for a long time. The Back to the Futures were on a loop on ITV. But it does feel like an afternoon movie where you just sat with a family, you don't really care about anything, pre-mobile phones and all that sort of thing, and you just like, get a few munchies in and watch it, and it's an inoffensive movie, and it is. It's not a terrible movie, and I'm not saying that if it was on TV, I wouldn't sit there and watch it. But I wouldn't watch it from the start. If it was halfway through, yeah, I'd probably watch it. But yeah, Elm Street, it's definitely hitting the nostalgia notes, and I'm glad you've picked it, but I'm just glad it wasn't my pick, Dave, because I keep saying I'm going to stitch us up with a really bad one, but something's coming next time. It's got to. I keep saying this and then going back to type, but no, I think it was a good pick. So what about yourself?
So, yeah, I think I've picked up. I thought that's where you'd put it. I have to say, when I came into this, I kind of felt like it was going to go to a Pleasantville for me. I really expected it to be that high, but I think in reality, it's not quite that good. I think I can definitely understand why, at 10 years old, this absolutely hit for me. Just the childishness of the jokes. I mean, number 5, he is quite endearing, isn't he? In that childish way, because he absorbs all this input, and he's got all the pop culture references and things like that. So, we've seen that a lot more now, but at the time, I don't think we'd seen that very much. By the way, Chris, I can't wait for Deadpool 3 to come out. It's coming out in a few weeks
latest
now.
Preview, by the way.
Yeah, it's looking good, isn't it?
That looks like I believe from people saying that's a double bluff. That bit, by the way.
Right,
if you've not
right.
seen it, I won't say anything. We'll talk off podcast. But there you go.
Yeah, but lots and lots of pop culture references in this one. I think the music very upbeat. It gives not only for knowing Short Circuit, but with Mahoney and Harris in there, essentially from Police Academy. It gives it that familiar feel as well. But yeah, lots kind of wrong with it. The fact that it is a bit of an ET rip-off, the whole brown face thing as well. I just didn't see that. I didn't know. I just assumed he was Indian, even though the lines were all a bit silly and exaggerated, like say Apu from The Simpsons. That's kind of probably on the nose right there. So it's going to be a hill valley from me. I think again the nostalgia probably pulled it up from where it objectively sits, and I don't think you could remake this one. I don't think it's one that would necessarily translate into another era. I think it was just perfect for the mid-80s, and that's where it should stay.
Yeah, no, good stuff. So next week, Dave, and good pick, this is one of our new patrons, Mr. John Malone. He's actually going to come on and review his pick, Dave, which is going to be interesting. So I'm looking forward to this one, John. But he's picked a movie that I have had on my radar, and I mean this, in the list. This has been, and I nearly picked it for my last pick, and I was like, no. And then luckily, I can scrub it off, Dave, which means I've got to find another absolute shocking martial arts movie at some point. But it definitely is one that I was going to pick. And I remember seeing this sort of mid-90s, never even heard of it, but I'm looking forward to us covering it, Dave. So we're going to be covering The Warriors. Let's get into the trailer.
These are the armies of the night.
Can you dig it?
She can.
Can you dig it?
Yeah.
The Furies. The Boppers.
God.
There's no racist stereotype in this one, Dave.
Yeah.
The Lizzies.
It's all set in
the Turnbull ACs. The Gramercy Riffs. And these are the Warriors.
We know about the Warriors. They're a heavy outfit.
They're from Coney Island.
Warriors? You guys are the big dudes, huh?
Now they're in the Bronx.
We're going back.
27 miles behind enemy lines.
Warriors is 6
between them and safety stand 20,000 cops and 100,000 sworn enemies.
I want them all. I want all the warriors.
There you go. Tell you what was good though, Dave. Rockstar. Yeah, they made Warriors game that
way out.
Right.
Yes, too. Yeah.
got one chance. They've got one night.
Guys, boys.
The Warriors.
Definitely the John Carpenter type music there.
Yeah. If there was ever a movie fit for our podcast, Dave, this is it. And the fact that you've never seen it is even better. So I cannot wait.
Shocking, to be fair. You know, I feel like I've seen it, and I should have seen it, but I think I've almost seen the derivatives of it. I mean, it almost has that Double Dragon feel, doesn't it?
Yeah. There's a bit that happens in it all the time, and I'm not going to spoil it till you've watched it because it's not shown in the trailer, but you'll keep saying this line because I got introduced to this. I know I could ruin next year, but my brother-in-law introduced me to this in like the mid-90s with us with Sam, and I was like, I ain't got a fucking clue what this is. And he was like, the greatest VHSs ever. It's like, I've never even heard of it. I'd never heard of it at all. So it's not like a movie, you know, like you go, oh yeah, what? Because obviously it's late 70s this came out. But yeah, John Malone, I'm not going to ruin it till next week, but I'm really interested how that one goes, Dave.
I feel like you're going to say the Warriors come out to play. It's the little dude from Commando, isn't it?
Yes.
The one that he drops off the cliff.
Yeah, he's in 48 Hours. Yeah, same guy.
Yeah. So it is one of those iconic ones. I feel like I might have watched it, but watching that trailer, I definitely haven't. And I think in my head as well, I'm sort of confusing it with We Were Warriors. So I'm convinced now. I definitely haven't seen this, so it'll be a first time for me.
Oh, nice one. I'm honestly, I'm looking forward to it, and they can go off my list now, so I'm not wasting another one of my picks. Or maybe it could be a good movie, Dave, but to be fair. But anyway, if you want to email us, the VHSstrikesback@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on social media, @VHSstrikesback. If you want to support us, please get over to patreon.com/the VHS Strikes Back. So the roll call of honour, and a big thank you to Mr. John Malone, Mike from the Genuine Chit Chat podcast, Lee, Helen, Dylan, Stephen, Trent, Dan, Justin, Susan, Timothy, Matt, Hales, Ken, Looking at the Green, Herbs, Jack, Math, Blake, John Hammond, and Mr. Tony Farina. So thank you so much for all your support, guys. Amazing stuff. And I cannot wait for next week. So, Dave, as is now the tradition, what have you got for us today, my friend?
For this one, I've gone for a bit of an 80s hairspray rock kind of feel. So strap yourself in, Chris.
Oh, baby. Feel the poodle rock, Dave.
Got to be playing the egg.
Oh, yeah, big white snake Bon Jovi wig. Definitely a Kerrang pesto.
Johnny's born in a flash of light. From Nova's left, now he's out of sight. Got struck by lightning, now he's feeling right. He's not just metal, he's got a heart to fight. Whoa! Johnny Five, he's alive.
I don't like the sound of that.
Rocking circuits in overdrive.
Van Halen playing on it.
Yeah. Johnny Five is alive. Na 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 na.
Oh, he's done it again, Andrew. Fucking captain. Fuck me. Can you imagine some of the end credits at the end?
It could be It could be in the movie though, couldn't it?
Good. When it's like learning about different things, you know, the encyclopedia and different, you know, pretends to bake a cake, Dave, and putting flour on himself, how we laugh, you know, them sort of montages sort of thing.
The video, you've got Bon Jovi, big massive hair there.
Yeah. Steve Guttenberg with an air guitar, Dave, or pretending to play the guitar. You can just see it now. Tony Five playing with his big 12-inch fucking dong, Dave, with a fucking...
playing it with his extendable groiner.
Yeah. Hitting the top of it like da-ding, da-ding, like a percussion thing, yeah.
Guttenberg's hair, like Leo Sayer, fluffy and wild, it's a scene-stealing player. Ellie Sheen has got Rita Phantom's flair. Don't you have big hair? It's an 80s love affair.
Leo Sayer, that's what his hair looks like, doesn't it?
It is.
Kevin Dugan. Now we are shredding.
The outro now.
That's how I wish I played the guitar, Dave.
Yeah. Face melting solo there. So yeah, it's just meant to be one of those mid-80s rock anthems with the hair rock and everything. So yeah, I've been singing along to myself this week as well with this one.
Fucking brilliant. Are you gonna be on like the front of the CD cover at Christmas with like a Christmas jumper on going, Dave Horrocks presents the VHS Strikes Back? You know,
well, I wasn't,
like,
but I'm thinking about it now.
Yeah, walking on the screen talking like, hey everyone, I've put together some of my greatest hits. You can find it at this for $29.99. You know, all that. Obviously I get half, Dave, even though you've done all the work and everything. But yeah.
I probably am. I don't even know how many of these things we've done, but I could probably start to collect them all up and stuff and stick it on Spotify or YouTube Music or whatever. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, you should do. But honestly, mate, absolutely brilliant today. Thank you for, again, producing some magic with the music, picking this one. And next week, honestly, I don't know where this is going to go because I've not watched it for a few years, but I always thought after initially watching it was a classic, but I've got a fucking bad feeling about watching this again.
Yeah, it doesn't look great. So we'll see. We have to be nice as well, don't we? It's our first time of meeting John, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But Chris, I will finish off with a quote. Obviously, the Laser Lips one I mentioned, but one of the other things, again, in children's movies, they seem to be quite cool with using shit and curse words and stuff. Just steered clear of the F-bomb. But one of the things I do remember as a kid laughing at is obviously Newton Crosby says at some point, he goes, "Holy shit," and number 5's like, "No shit. Where's see shit?" And that is the level of comedy in this movie. But thank you very much, sir. Thanks for entertaining me with this one. Thanks to all our listeners out there. Thanks to all our supporters. And we'll speak to you next time.
Bye.
That's it, man. It's game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
Maybe we could build a fire, sing a couple of songs, huh? Why don't we try that?
We better get back, because it'll be dark soon, and they mostly come at night. Mostly.
I'll be back.
That's not.
We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
Wax on, wax off. Get to the chopper!
One ring to go.
All right. Ding, ding.
Bust you up. Go for it.
Well, here we go. Ain't so bad. Ain't so bad. Ain't so bad. Come on. Ain't so bad. Ain't nothing. Come on. You must be crazy or something. I'm crazy. You just a stupid fool.
Yeah, maybe
you crazy or something.
I ain't breathing heavy.
He's a fool. He's stupid. I'll see you in 6 months.